Today I'm doing my presentation on sadness, which is a basic emotion that I'm sure we've all felt and probably more than we would want to. And I thought I knew plenty about being sad, but once I started doing research in the book and in the lectures, I really didn't know as much as I thought. So, first, what is sadness? Our Reef book refers to it as distress, but Ekman says that sadness has many names and he lists them as being distraught, disappointed, blue, depressed, discouraged, despairing, grieved, helpless, miserable, and sorrowful. It's the most negative and aversive feeling that we can get, and it often arises from separation, and that could be from a place, a person, or a thing. I added a picture of a guy packing his car, and I assume he's moving away from home, whether that be to live or for college, and he's probably going to feel sadness because he's separated from his hometown and from his family. Family is a big one that people feel sadness from being separated from. I added in a picture of me and my mom because at least once a day I feel a little bit of sadness from being separated from her. She's the thing that I miss most about being separated from home. Sadness can also arise from failure, whether that be failure at a job or failure at a competition, a sports competition, failure at a test, school, academics, assignments. I added in this picture of this little boy who's showing signs of obvious sadness from what looks like to be an assignment or test in his hand with a big red F circled on it. Sadness can also rise from the feeling of failure, like if you feel like a failure of a parent, a failure of as a child, a failure as a daughter, a son, a brother, a sister. Maybe you feel like you've failed at being a good best friend. It also can arise from loss, typically a closely related loss. Maybe that's the loss of a family member or the loss of a job you've had for a really long time, um, loss of a breakup. Maybe you've recently been broken up with and now you feel like you've lost another piece of you, maybe being rejected as a friend, being rejected as some sort of group. Um, and the part of the brain that sadness is associated with, one part is the amygdala, and our Reeve book says that the amygdala automatically and instantaneously detects, learns about, and responds to emotionally significant and aversive events in our life. So I added in a picture of the little piece in the middle of the brain that is mostly associated with emotions, specifically sadness, and also the prefrontal cortex, specifically the right lobe, because it generates negative emotions and focuses on more avoidance emotions such as sadness, fear, depression, grief. And so I added in a picture there of, and it's showing the side view, so you can't really tell whether it's the right or the left. It's just, but mainly that right part is associated with those negative emotions such as sadness and fear and depression and grief. Some behavioral responses of sadness, it can be positive or negative. One behavioral response turns your attention inward. It makes you not question yourself, but maybe look inside your own heart and your own insides and your characteristics, and shows you, maybe makes you think about what you could do better to improve. It promotes personal reflection. It makes you, and I put in a picture right here, maybe take a look in the mirror, which can be really difficult and something that you don't want to do, but the emotion of sadness can force you to take a look at yourself in the own mirror to see how you can improve as a person or as a student, as a family member, as a friend. It can physically decrease your bodily arousal. Think about when you get sad, you lose a little bit of interest in activities that you usually enjoy. You feel a little bit more tired. You feel down. You don't really want to do anything. It's more tempting to just lay in your bed and eat ice cream and watch movies for the rest of the day. However, in some situations, it can motivate you to take action. Um, Maybe like initially, in a lot of breakups, whoever is broken up with very quickly feels motivated to take action, to have that glow up, or get in the gym, or do something that helps you project that sadness onto something else. You can try to restore your environment to what it was before the sadness sort of made itself present. Um, if it was maybe separation, you can try to call your family if that's what you miss, if that's causing the sadness. It could be if it's a loss, maybe you lost your pet. A lot of people will, it helps when they get another dog or another cat right after the passing of their old one. It helps them restore the environment of what they had before the loss. Sadness can encourage you to prevent its reoccurrence. So it makes you take action in the future so that you can prevent whatever happened before to make you sad. And it can even help you apologize and offer reparations. If a significant other broke up with you and I inserted a picture of someone bringing flowers, if you feel like you did something wrong to get them back, you can offer flowers, you can apologize, you can try to woo them into taking you back and maybe getting back together. In most serious cases, depression or sadness can slowly form itself into depression, which in the book it says it's a combination of sadness and rumination, which causes depression. It happens when there's an emotion overproduction, when so many feelings and emotions, and it could be anger, sadness, anxiety, worry, can all kind of formulate and take over your mind and thoughts. It can impair your problem solving skills. It can make your mind feel clouded and like you can't think properly. It can distract your attention. So instead of being able to focus in class or focus on the assignment, those sad thoughts and depressing thoughts tend to take over, and it's all you can focus on, it's all you can think about. It also causes, and that the distracting attention can cause negative thinking. Like suddenly the things that made you the most happy or you looked forward to, it's all of a sudden you're seeing every little negative thing instead of focusing on the positive. It can erode your social support. Think about when you're sad. I know some people are different, but I personally want to go to my room and shut the door and kind of isolate myself away from everyone. So it can sometimes, if it's more of a long-term thing, it could impair your social relationships. You don't hang out with your friends as more, so you grow further apart. You don't talk to your family members about it, so maybe they feel distant from you. It can also cause physical and emotional self-harm. Um, and it can cause destructive behavior. So maybe if you're sad and you're a person that kind of takes it out on other people or you get angry easily, it can be self-destructive and destructive on others. I inserted this picture to see it can show signs of others around you or even yourself of depression. It says persistent feelings of sadness. If you notice someone or even yourself that constantly looks upset, they are showing those physical signs, the shoulders being hunched in, maybe arms closer to your side, a frown all the time, darkness in the eyes. It also adds loss of interest in activities, things that they used to love doing. Maybe that was going out or going to eat or playing a sport or going for walks. They don't really feel like doing that anymore. Trouble sleeping, appetite, weight changes, being fatigued and tired all the time, feeling like you have no energy, feelings of difficulty thinking, instability, frustration, physical signs. It could be aches, it can be like itchiness, scratching, and recurrent thoughts of death or suicide is the most prominent one. If you begin to feel that way, you need to reach out for help for sure. The Ekman book focuses a lot on sadness and grief and the physical and emotional signs of grief. I inserted this picture, and this actually came from the book. It's of a woman who just found out that her son was murdered by a serial killer, and that is a severe loss. So sadness and grief and how those two compare is usually a response to a severe loss of a loved one, of something close to you. And it is a longer lasting emotion and it comes in waves. So the book described it as having a resigned sadness, and that could be just the being closed off, the feeling of tiredness and lack of energy and not wanting to do anything. And then that can turn into a protesting agony, which is what this woman is showing right here, the obvious signs of sadness, of crying or anger or yelling and projecting it on others, and then it'll go back into the resigned sadness and then to the protesting agony, and it goes around and around in a cycle until it eventually fades over time. And the stages of grief is shock, and then denial, then sadness, then agony, and then anger. And Ekman describes medication as being a way to alleviate this intense sadness, agony, and grief, and it can help heal a loss. So a lot of psychiatrists will, prescribe medication to help heal a loss. And one negative effect of medication, it may not seem once a person starts taking that medication that they are suffering, and that could be positive as in they may not feel like they're suffering anymore. They will feel happier, they won't be as sad, and can go back to returning to their daily activities. But it also could be negative because once they aren't showing those signs of sadness anymore or suffering, it won't kind of signal to other people that they're being sad, so they won't lack or they'll lack that social support, and they won't be able to receive help from others, because it can be really hard to ask for help when something like this occurs in your life. And it kind of makes it easier to when you're showing those obvious signs, because then people are going to be like, oh, are you okay? Like, what's going on? But when you're not showing those signs, people are never going to know. And it also comes into question of like, when someone doesn't really want to be helped, maybe feeling sad and being depressed is kind of their comfort feeling. That's like, maybe that's how they've always been, or they're not ready to heal. So medication may not help or be as effective in those kind of situations. And for the movie, the whole kind of theme for the character Sadness, what I noticed is in the beginning she kind of was perceived as being a negative emotion, a negative character. Maybe they thought she messed up more than she helped, and they tried to kind of keep her distant and not involved in anything. Joy puts her in a circle of sadness and tells her to keep all the sadness inside. So the other characters really didn't want anything to do with her. And she touches an emotion and accidentally causes it to be a sad memory. She touches a memory and causes it to be sad. And when Riley thinks back to that memory, instead of being happy and maybe a nostalgic memory, she becomes sad. However, at the end of the movie, when Joy falls into the pit of memories, she becomes sad, but she has a realization moment. She sees in the memory Riley being sad on the tree because she missed the game-winning shot, but then her parents and her team is able to comfort her. So she realizes that being sad is an important emotion because it does signal to others that you need the comfort and you need the help to kind of relieve that sadness. So to summarize, sadness can be a negative emotion, but can have a positive effect. So like doing some self-reflection or signaling to others that you need comfort. It can improve you as a person. It can improve personality traits and characteristics, but in severe situations, it can have a negative effect. It's important for your emotional and mental health. So like in the movie Inside Out, Joy realized that you needed sadness so that you could receive the comfort and the help from others. And it can also enact important behavioral responses, such as maybe feeling motivated to not let that situation happen again if it's in your control, or like, let's go back to that slide. It can help you apologize and offer reparations and restore your environment from before. So I hope that I helped you just as much as I helped myself learn more about sadness.